Welcome, boys and babes, to our little life-giving podcast we so gratefully live our bliss through. It's the Magic Hour, and by now you likely already know us. I'm Mercedes Terrell, and with me, my majestic partner in shine, Jade Bryce. I could not agree more. So thank you, Magic Mobbers, for tuning in and thereby granting us this gift of being able to connect with you in this way. And you may not even realize it, but you are being a light just by doing that, which is so freaking cool. So love you guys. Okay, so on with the show. Let me introduce. Okay. Okay. I think that was really good though. So let's just go from let me introduce. Anita, hi. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Jade, do you have Anita on video? Okay. There you are. We're just being very quiet so we don't break your train of thought there because I know the tech stuff is always fun to dig through. Oh, we have the same struggle ourselves, so. Good. Are you going to take that spoon out, Jade? If you're going to sip during the thing, it's just I can hear it is all. So it's probably going to, if you want to be able to drink it, I'm sure you do want to. So. Mm. Audacity. Are you on a Mac? Try to swipe up with 3 fingers and see if it's still up. You can just hit or no, use Command Spacebar, and it should pull up a little spotlight like searcher bar. Did that pop up? Command Spacebar. If you hold down Command and hit Spacebar, and then type in AUD, and it should pop up automatically. Cool. Let me look at what you're looking at. Yeah. Perfect. Well, what you can do is just hit stop quickly and play it back in your own ears. It'll play right away to your own ears. Yeah, and we'll be quiet so you can listen to that. Just hit the black square for stop. Just push the play button. Cool. If you're coming through clear, then from here you'll just push record at this point, the red ball. Yeah, it's just your line of audio. Yeah. Alrighty. You've got a green thing bouncing now. Okay, perfect. And by the way, thank you for being here with us today and going through all the tech. Yeah. That's a good way to look at it. That's a great way to look at it. All right. Let me introduce today's guest. Anita is a breakthrough life coach, and her work centers around getting people unstuck. She helps people to dive deep below the surface to see what unconscious programs are truly holding you back. Through her core coaching and theta practice, Through her core coaching and theta healing practice, she helps you shift your limiting beliefs, fears, and habits so you can live a life of authenticity, passion, purpose, success, and peace. Her powerful teachings stem from overcoming her own life obstacles, from losing a husband while having two small children, to overcoming breast cancer, to finding her calling in life and starting her own business 9 years ago. We are so excited to hear her empowering story and for all that she has to share with us today. So please welcome Anita Lane, boys and babes. Yay! Hi, Anita. Oh, thank you. We're so glad to have you here. So, Anita, we're obviously excited to have you here on the show because your story is super inspiring. So maybe before we jump into the questions we have for you regarding the work you do, you could just share with us the story that brought you to finding your own calling. Hmm. Mm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Huh. Mm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm. Mm-hmm. Mm. Mm-hmm. Mm. 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 At least get paid for it. Yeah. Oh man, that's so that is something I think a lot of women need to hear actually. That is a big one. We spend a yeah. We go into that mothering instinct and hold it on our spouses a lot of times. Okay, so a little piece of what you were going into there I wanted to touch on, which is I know people using throwing around the term living your bliss and might say I'm in a career that I feel really fulfilled in, or I feel like I'm in service of others in this. And those are terms that, if I'm being completely honest, that even just a couple years ago I might have heard and been like, rolled my eyes and be like, that's not real. Like, that's not a real thing. You can't really wake up every day and be so excited to be working that job. Like, I literally thought work had to be hard, ugly, laborious and strenuous, and had to feel the pain of the work in order for it to make me money. And that's something I'm little by little trying to work out of my own life. So because you do so much work with people's deep unconscious beliefs and behaviors, how do those things affect us being able to actually live our bliss through our work? Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah, and I think that's like I was telling Jade earlier, this is the first thing that I've done. This podcast is the first thing that I've done where I feel I'm doing it just because I really want to, like I'm very, very passionate about it. I have, even if there's some pains that come, with this growing process of it, it's, I'm appreciating it and super grateful for it, where it's not like I'm bummed out I have to do something for the podcast. It doesn't feel like work in that sense. So I'm working through that whole idea, trying to figure out how to make things not painful and still get paid for them. So, mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. And figuring out who we want to become maybe is the first step in that whole process. So and it touched, you said something about people who come, or if my parents maybe, or somebody in my life, my upbringing, I watched come home and have had a backbreaking day at work. I grew up actually the first, I don't even know, 11 years of my life on a farm with my grandparents and my mom, and watching them come home, well, watching my grandpa, especially, he was the farmer of the situation here. He would, come back in from being out in the field all day, or being, he would work on houses outside of doing stuff on the actual land we lived on. And it was always physical labor. So he's always, just covered in sweat and just tired and ready to lay on the couch. And that's literally what he would do when he got back. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense that was a big part of what I've seen. And my dad too does something that's very physical. So he has seen that, especially in his body, pain in his body from the work he does. So yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, you got to go out there. Oh, yeah. Strangely, too, I noticed that because I spend a lot of my job, indoors on a computer, behind the screen, and all that, I my sleep changes whenever I'm not in the sunshine enough. Like my physical body and everybody's physical body wants to be outdoors and in the sunshine and in the elements and like experiencing nature in some way or another. So funny you say that. Actually, today I was jogging before we got on this recording, and the mailman, was walking down the street, and I noticed he had parked his truck super far away, and he walks like down one side of the street for like a half mile and then walks the other side back and puts mail in all the boxes. And I was thinking, if I had to have a government job, I'd probably choose to be a mailman because I'd be able to move my legs, be in the sunshine, greet some people that I get to see regularly. I would just, anyway, but yeah, I literally thought of that today. Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. Got to figure that out for myself. Mm. Mm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right. Our lizard brains want to keep us comfortable. Yeah. Mm. Mm. Not as much external as internal. Mm-hmm. Mm. Mm. Mm-hmm. It's just running from a trigger at that point instead of actually going through and figuring out how to fix yourself from getting triggered in the first place, right? I think that the hard part too is that in a relationship, you're going, maybe your ego based self or your lizard brain is going, this external thing, this other person is triggering me over and over again. And like we were talking about earlier, we just want to be comfortable. Our, instinctual self just wants to find the comfort spot and run, get away from anything and avoid anything that's going to take us out of that comfort zone. So when this external thing keeps triggering you, most of us go, okay, well, I'm going to get away from this. It's that they're the problem. But if we can figure out how to deal with that trigger so it's more subtle, or whatever it is to make yourself feel more comfortable in the situation, your lizard brain, your ego will be like, okay, I guess we can handle this. And maybe you can work all the way through it, or maybe you can decide, okay, that problem's subsided enough. I need to work on this other bigger problem. If there's too many of those, I get that you need to probably go at some point. At some point there's a breaking point. But yeah. Mm. Mm-hmm. Mm. Mm. Mm-hmm. Mm. I like that. Mm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, what is EFT? Mm-hmm. 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 That's a good. Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right. That's all kinds of magic tricks you've got in there. I feel like you're right, though. I think if people just YouTube some of this stuff or Google it, it's like the tools are out there. Or get on a podcast, get on the podcast app and type in, meditation or whatever the thing is that you want to look into. It's right there at your fingertips if you do the work to find it, the little bit of effort that it takes. Something you mentioned earlier about Anita, I think you might have been like in my brain for the last few days already because I feel like maybe I'm putting out some vibrations because what you're coming to us with right now are things that like last night my husband and I had like a 30-minute conversation on one of your points, and then when you spoke about as parents we are the starting point for the next generation. So in essence, like where we leave them on, or where we've brought ourselves, and how much self work and pain seeking or whatever you want to call it that we put in during our lifetime and during the time before we have kids or while they're in our lives, is where they get to pick up from and take off from. And I think that is something that the world of baby makers needs to hear, because I don't think that people see it that way, Like I think that they just figure, "Oh, I'll be an okay parent. Like I'll figure it out. It'll be okay." And not that you have to go into it so seriously and be harsh about it or harsh on yourself if you're not doing your very best in every moment of the day, cuz that's impossible. But at the same time, understanding that the work you put in isn't just for you. It's for your offspring. It's for the generations to come after that. It's for everyone involved in your lifetime. That's huge. I mean, how much more motivation can you want? Yeah. 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 I absolutely love that. And I love how you put words to that. So thank you. And the other point I wanted to bring you back to was when we were talking about theta brainwaves specifically. I think you said theta brainwaves are sometimes thought of as imprints that even our ancestors had beliefs that imprint and carry down our lineage. Did I get that right? That part of it right? Okay. Right. I was having this conversation literally last night. This is why it's mind blowing to me that we're talking about that now. I wasn't speaking on theta brainwaves specifically because I didn't even know what they were before I knew you. But I was talking about the idea. Actually, my husband was bringing the idea to me that he was just, saying he thinks that there's some thing to the idea that all the lineage, all the way down to like the microbe that we may have come from, turned into a fish, turned into a monkey, that turned into a caveman, and here we are. That these primal thoughts that have like run through our minds over and over again that have brought us to now. We were actually specifically talking about rape. And as dark as that is, rape has been how most animals, and still to this day, most animals procreate through essentially taking advantage of the male takes advantage of the female to, pass on his lineage, right? So we humans we come from animals, right? We are animals. And there is some bit of that I think trails through our DNA at some point. If any of that makes sense that I just said, but yeah. Mhm. Yeah. Mm. 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 Part. Mm. Mhm. Mm. Mm. That's wild. Yeah. 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 It's that's a wild thought to think that that all comes yeah, that it all comes into play. And the fact is that we don't think about the infinite possibilities or the what the idea of infinity is. Like when you if you're anybody listening to this, right? If you stop and think about what infinity means or just go outside and look at the stars and start that's really where I always think of infinity every time, right? Think about us living in an infinite universe, something with no known end. How can we for one moment think that anything we, quote unquote believe, literally anything we believe is the end all be all because there's infinite possibilities out there. There's infinite possibilities of us having replicants of our exact selves doing this exact same thing in this, same moment in some other parallel dimension universe or in our universe because there's infinite parallels and so that idea that human brains first of all we can't even wrap our minds around the idea to then say that we have any idea what we're doing here or that we can have an opinion that's so strong and this is the only way we're going to believe, it leaves out so much hope for this abundance of other things you can experience. I think we rob ourselves whenever we close the door on just just possibilities of yeah. Mm. Mm. Right. Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Or how or mm. Mm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's my genetic makeup. But that's like an alcoholic saying, well, my dad was an alcoholic, so I'm inevitably going to be that. That's so limiting. Stop limiting yourself. All right. So, with all that said, as you mentioned, you are clairaudient, meaning you're not only super good at listening to people, but you can also perceive energies that come with whatever they say. So, I'm hoping you can help Jade and I dig out some of the core beliefs that might be holding us back by doing a little sample session with us. Are you up for that? Cool. So we came up with what our, since it's, the beginning of the year now, what our 2019 aspirations are. So I'll start. Mine are what I'm hoping to, what I'm calling feng shui my life, meaning get myself organized in all facets, including my house, my businesses, and hopefully my mind, or probably firstly my mind. That's it. I'm my first of all, my house is not like in an order where everything has a place for it. So I feel overwhelmed a lot of the time when I'm trying to clean or declutter, like first of all, where to start. And and not so much like I do feel I have a strength in figuring out where things can go and then fitting them into the places nicely. Um, but yeah, so that might start out where I feel most cluttered and unorganized is in my home. In business, I should say I have had a lot of different directions that I was going, and I was feeling like before this podcast, especially, I was feeling like scrambled as to where I wanted to spend my most energy and time. Um, and now, because this is such a passion of mine and I have like this vision for it and I really want this to work out, and even if all the vision and goals I have for it are not what's achieved, I know every single day I jump on a call with Jade and whoever the guest is, I'm having almost a mini therapy session like we're doing right now, and I am gaining, whether it's financially or not, I'm gaining through it. So I know that that's still something I want to put my majority of time and energy on. Other businesses that I have, I've already had some, I've taken some energy from because I know I wanted to put it towards the podcast, but I don't feel like I have a really good, like I haven't laid out a really good plan to, okay, I'm going to spend whatever percent of my day on this business. I'm going to spend the other percent on this business and then the rest on the podcast or whatever it is. So maybe I need to put that more into play as far as putting like a plan together and figuring out what that really looks like. And as far as my mind goes, organizing my mind, I think a lot of that will come through practices that I know I have, like I already have the tools to do it, but I need to apply them to my life and consistently and create a routine. And I think I give myself excuses like, oh, my job with Bellator, for instance, I travel a ton, so I'm always like in and out of my house. I'm living out of a suitcase a lot of the time, so I feel like having a routine is tough. I'm in other countries and upside down time zones and that type of thing. So figuring out what the routine can be in those situations has been also a challenge. Okay. I should take the time from other things in my life to focus on decluttering and organizing. Uh, very low. Mm. Mm. Mm-hmm. Oh, for sure. Mm-hmm. Right. Oh, yeah. And I feel that draw. Like, I feel my unconscious mind working on it when I'm not even thinking about it. Like, I know that stuff needs to get done. I know this is, should be at the top of my priority list, but I am doing something else because that's the thing that's going to actually make me money or this, because I have a house to support and every other reason I give myself. Um, mm, hmm. Yeah, almost giving myself the trust would make me take responsibility in a more pleasant way, in a less like painful way, maybe. Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, that one I've been already, using as a mantra as much as possible, but definitely asking or telling myself that, or maybe just giving myself the, credit or respect is due for what I have built thus far. And then, okay, and respect for doing the work to get me to where I am thus far. Yes, we certainly. Yes. Yes. Mm. Sure. I really. Right. Yeah, I really like that because I have been noticing that when I implant little ideas and seeds, into my um, meditation or into my mind one way or another, if I consciously think the thought and I go, okay, I want to hold on to that and I want to think about that, or, let me make sure I quote unquote, sleep on these ideas, whatever they are, I notice that they come around in my life. Like I do resolve them if it's a hard problem I need to get through, or, okay, how am I going to fix this room so that it works for all the reasons I need it to work? I come up with a solution. It's usually not right on the spot, it's usually like a few days later, a week later, a month later, whatever it is, but it does come around. I think having faith in that instead of stressing on in the moment, this isn't working for me, like, what am I going to do? I'm overwhelmed because it's not working for me in this moment, but having more faith in my own ability, my mind, my like amazing mind having the ability to take in these thoughts and problems and issues and then resolve them while I'm barely even thinking about them, as days go by and I'm doing my daily routine, whatever it is. and it's being fixed little by little. So having faith in that. Yeah. No. Okay. 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 Mm. Credit's a big word for me. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Um, in this case, I don't deserve to take the time to organize stuff, even though I know that's what would help me the most. Need to spend my time on things that make me money. Okay. Okay. Mm. Okay. That was cool. Yeah, for sure. I could see. By the way, my 3-year-old self was very cute. She's very cute. So I couldn't say no to her in that circumstance. Mm-hmm. For sure. And I'm the older sister who, had to, yeah, was always and still is, that kind of supposed to be the one setting examples. Yeah. Um, it came to me too when I was thinking of her on my lap and letting her off the hook, so to speak. That something we've said on the show before is that we judge others for their actions, but we judge ourselves for our intentions. But I think as much as I judge myself for my intentions, a lot of the time I do when I look at my past and like who I am, take myself out of the perspective from my own eyes and look at myself from an outsider's perspective, I am judging myself by my actions and not my intentions. I think I do that maybe just more often than someone who's more forgiving of themselves or gives themselves more space. Wow. That was. I'm probably overly perfectionist because that's a big struggle I have. But also, yeah, it came to mind too that my mom, just now when you were talking about firstborns, not that my mom only did this to me, but I think I took it more to heart than my little sister. When I was little, I remember her, this happened like often, where if we were getting rambunctious with each other, or say we're in a restaurant and there's, people around and whatnot, and we're getting rowdy or we're pinching each other, whatever we're doing because we're kids, my mom and dad have never yelled, never raised their voice ever with me. So, like, I think that caused me in a weird way to grow up too fast, too. But my mom would say, Mercedes, Terrastar, look around you. Is anyone else acting like that? Like, why, like, to basically take ourselves out of our bodies and be like, oh, nobody else is doing this. We need to, act right, act right. So the child was robbed from me. I've told my mom that sometimes. You robbed the child from me, but we joke. I mean, I also know I needed to go through those things in order to become the amazing human I am today. So it's all good. Hmm. Yeah. That was really cool. Thank you for doing that for me. Mm. Hmm. Mm-hmm. That's a great tool. I would ask though, is it a, I don't know, a slippery slope, maybe is the wrong term, but in the direction of like if you're creating your own story and you're kind of adjusting the truth to create your own truth, is that is in any way that going to not serve you as well? Like people forget trauma because it was so traumatic their brain doesn't want to hold on to it sometimes, and people remember things incorrectly because they make up their own story because of like what you're saying, where it just doesn't fit what they want to do with the rest of their life. It's going to turn them into something they don't want to go towards. So when you say use this as a tool to consciously create a story, is the fact that you're doing it consciously what makes it not something dangerous, I guess. I feel like losing memories through trauma or remembering things incorrectly through trauma could be dangerous, whereas this sounds like a great conscious tool. I'm just wondering how that both plays in. Mm. Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. So would it still fit to say to yourself, these things happened to me and own that, but then say, but because of those things, this darkness, because of these darknesses, this light came from it, or because of those things, I now realize, something amazing in the opposite direction. And without those things, I wouldn't be able without those negative experiences, I wouldn't be able to come to these positive conclusions. Okay. And I'm sure depending on the person, and I totally get how putting a new storyline into play would help even myself. Like I could see how that would help, but I'd also have a part of my brain that's going, you're just tricking yourself, lady. Like that's, like, so for me, and, like I said, I'm sure it's dependent on the person and how you perceive things and take in information. But for me, I think I would probably put more of a spin on things like, okay, these things did happen, but I'm actually glad, a piece of me is really glad that this happened because now I know not to do that to others, or now I know it brought me to see how, to have gratitude for so many things, or whatever the positive is. Mm, for sure. All right, so we have a question from the Magic Mob. Kyle on Instagram asks, I know you do some amazing coaching work with cancer patients and you've overcome breast cancer yourself. So, because we're currently seeing so many cases of cancer, in the world today, and especially in young people, I wanted to ask what you think is at the core of why people are getting cancer in the first place. Sure. Mm. 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 Mm-hmm. Mm. Mm. Mm-hmm. Right. Mm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm. Mm. Wow. Yeah. God, yeah. Yeah. Well, the that made me think of, you know, you said that we almost get warnings in layers like, okay, this is a problem. Are you going to, you're something happens, I don't know what it is, your back's hurting or whatever it is. Are you going to deal, yeah, something minor. Are you going to deal with this little problem? Oh, okay, I take some aspirin or some Advil, or take something to mask the pain. Then later on in life, maybe anxiety pops up or panic attacks or something like this, and instead of doing the work to figure out what's really causing that, you end up at, the doctor and asking for, not that you shouldn't go to a doctor and assess this medically, but you don't do some of the homework that you need to do. And I'm giving just one scenario here, but you have the option to then take like an SSRI, a serotonin reuptake inhibitor, or take some, Xanax or whatever it is, and mask the pain again. And sometimes you need to do that and do the work at the same time. I'm sure there's a lot of different directions you can take this, but when we continue to avoid and mask, and especially when we're masking a problem, even when people are, right now smoking weed religiously is like, everyone I know is like, oh, we're doing this thing, we're masking our pain with one thing or another. When we use an escape over and over again, how can we ever expect ourselves to be able to consciously see what's going on in our bodies? At the same, in the same breath, I want to say that having an escape from time to time, I think, is necessary and part of the self-nurturing you're talking about, and is a beautiful thing and should be done, and, make that part of your routine as well. But let's think about things in not the Western medical sense, where when something pops up, push it down. Let's think about, okay, why is this thing popping up in the first place? Dig deep and do, like we say, seek the pain for positive gain. Like, go down and figure out what that ugly root thing is coming up for, and then solve it. So yeah, I love that. Not very well, but I was just trying to make sure I understood all you said there, because you really said it well. I mean, yeah. I don't know that I want to read some people's minds. So do you do you run into that issue? Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. You don't want to always know what's going on with everyone. Yeah. It's quite invasive. Um I mean, I travel a ton, and sitting in an airplane is one of my least favorite things. So definitely teleportation calls to me. Um, so there's a few questions we like to ask everyone who comes on the show. First off, what advice would you give your 25-year-old self? Hmm. That's probably what I need to hear right now. So thank you for that. It's always tough to just choose one. Mm. Mm. Mm-hmm. Mm. Mm. I like that. I haven't. I got to definitely pick that up. Yeah, and I love the visual of plowing the fields so that because you have this big crop coming in, like I can use that in a lot of ways in my life. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so helpful. So, if you could whisper one phrase to everyone on the planet, what would it be? We all need to hear that. Perfect. If you only if you want people hitting you up left and right, yeah. Yeah, that was powerful stuff for me. I know I'm going to need to like absorb that, integrate it, just that little bit we did. So if anyone listening needs help in any of these areas, which everybody does, let's be honest, yeah, I hope they really do reach out to you because we can't do this alone all the time. Like we think we can. Oh, we don't need any kind of therapist. We don't need anybody's help. It's not fun. Yeah. Well, yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Mm. Yeah, I read that in your work. I love that. For sure. Yep. Yep. Sometimes you got to walk into the darkness to get to the light, y'all. That's all good. All right. Thank you so much, Anita. Mhm. And so the only thing is on when you actually, if you want to do it right now with us so you can get it started, I can walk you through it if that's easiest. Or we're doing it. Oh, no problem. Yeah. Yeah. So file, it'll just be file, export, export as wave. Those are the three buttons you'll need to push. Yeah, push stop. We don't need all this on recording. We're good. And then it'll perfect. Alrighty. Thank you. This was awesome. You too. Yeah. Alrighty. Thank you. Bye. Yeah. Oh man. I'm not gonna lie. That was heavy. That was heavier than I had expected. I think emotionally. Yeah. Yeah. I think that just that little practice, like just thinking of your child self on your lap and talking to you and saying those things to you that you really need to be asked, from your child self was like it's painful, yeah, because you're of course going, no, little girl, like you're okay. You're gonna be, you want to tell them soothing things and baby them because that's what you need in that moment. But yeah, anyway, whew, that was good. Mm. Yes, cool. Yeah, thanks for connecting us. All right, what you got, Jade? Mm, for sure. Mm-hmm. I like that. Yeah, you sent me that list, and it was cool to read through like the things you were trying to, um, the things that you have set as your goals, and to read them as you already are those things. And a lot of them too. When I'm reading them, I'm like, yeah, you already are. You already are doing that. Like your path is clear and ready for you. So it was cool as someone close to you to see you already on the verge of embodying a lot of those things, even if you don't realize it or not. Also, I was just gonna say that when you brought up like telling yourself, I feel my gut is the healthiest it could possibly be, even if you have a ton of digestive issues. Well, it made me think of, especially when I was a lot younger, I had really bad digestive issues. I still have some, but I've worked through a lot, and healed a lot. I used to be in so much pain, like my cramps in my stomach would be so painful and for so many hours that I'd literally be like in fetal position, like just in so much pain and waiting for these waves of pain to go through me. And I'd have to make up stories. Like I'd literally, no one told me to do this. My brain was like, just reaching for anything that could help me through those painful moments. And I would come up with like things that were really happy to me to think in that moment to try to like offset the issue I was trying to get through, the pain I was trying to get through. And I would literally be like thinking or saying things to myself like, I'm super happy right now. Everything is beautiful. All these yellow flowers. There's unicorns. Like I would literally go through the gamut of things to make me feel better or to not feel the pain. But it did. I think it really helped me. Okay. 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 So my magic trick is that sometimes it's really difficult to clearly define exactly what we want in our lives. Or at least I know I've had a hard time with this and sometimes still do. So when I come up against this issue of defining what I want, instead of struggling with the overwhelm of painting a concise mental picture of what I want my life to look like, I simply start with a mantra asking questions like, what do I want? Like that simple. What do I want? What do I want? And then I just allow the question to exist in my subconscious for as long as it needs to, and have a little bit of faith in the fact that things will work out. They're already in there. Once you've implanted them, they'll continue to work themselves out. Okay. No worries. Well, don't know how you do it. I read part of it, but it was loud over there, and I should have probably just muted the Skype, but I couldn't figure that out. So let me just. I figured you probably need to react a little or something anyway, or it might sound weird. So I just waited. Okay. Maybe notate where we're going to start right here to tell Adam that he can, wherever we end your magic trick, he can cut out until we start again so that he doesn't have to like. Oh, okay. So maybe just prompt me with what's your magic, something like that. So my magic trick is kind of the first step to figuring out what you want in your life. And I know sometimes it's really difficult to clearly define exactly what we want our lives to look like, or at least I know I've had a hard time with this and sometimes still do. So when I come up against this issue, instead of struggling with the overwhelm of painting a, like a really concise mental picture of what I want my life to look like, I simply just start with a mantra asking the question, what do I want? What do I want? And just repeating that to myself and like meditating on that and letting that really sink in. Just the question, what do I want? Like I'm not trying to answer it or anything like that. And then I just allow this question to exist in my subconscious for as long as it needs to. And like I was telling Anita earlier in this episode, it could be a day where these questions roll around in my head. It could be weeks. But eventually I do come to some sort of resolution or some sort of answer. And by letting that question, what do I want, roll around in my head, I also allow the vibration of the question to radiate around me, which I think is part of what attracts the answer to me over time. I know sometimes we just want to jump, straight to the final result without putting any of the necessary time and effort towards the actual journey of getting there. But I don't know. I think when we attempt to take these shortcuts, we are essentially proving to ourselves that we're not ready or worthy of what we think we want. And that's why we end up back on that hamster wheel and we're stuck and frustrated. So as much as we tout things like, especially I say this all the time, work smarter, not harder, which is something that gets said in our culture all the time too. When it comes to your own happiness, take the scenic route. Don't seek shortcuts. So I hope you find this little magic trick useful. And, even if it feels silly, I hope you guys give it a try. You just take a moment, get quiet, ask the universe or God or yourself or whatever you want to call that abundance of energy we all have access to, what it is that you want in your life. And you can ask it aloud. You can quietly ask it to yourself. You can meditate on it, whatever feels good to you. And then that's it. Like leave that there, give faith and just allow for space and time for the answers to come to you because they will. Thanks. A big thank you to Anita Lane for being on the show today, and to @RayToneRoyal for our intro jam. A big thank you to Anita Lane for being on the show today, and to @RayToneRoyal for our intro jam, and to Adam from Red Fox Audio for producing the show. Stay magical, friends.